Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Okay, it's Pride Season 2025.
Right?
A time that, for many people means visibility, celebration, a lot of energy.
Definitely a lot of energy. Sometimes maybe a lot of noise.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we want to get into today. We got some really interesting material you brought in, and we want to look, beneath that noise.
Yeah, it's a perspective from a source called Lóng Tíng Voices. And it takes this calmer, more reflective look at pride.
Asking some pretty deep questions, it sounds like.
It really does. Questions about what pride means now, maybe challenging some common ideas.
So our mission today is to unpack what this voice is saying. We'll look at the origins of pride as they see it, its current state, the global picture for LGBT folks in 2025, according to this text.
And try to find that quiet truth the source talks about.
Right. Moving beyond the usual symbols.
Exactly. Because this perspective really pushes us to think about who gets seen and maybe who doesn't in all the bigness of pride today. We're sticking just to what's in this material.
Okay, let's dive in. The source apparently kicks off with a question that, you hear it sometimes. Do we still need pride?
Yeah, and it acknowledges that feeling some people have, that maybe it's become just a party now.
But it doesn't just leave it there.
No, not at all. It immediately grounds us in the history. It says pride was born in the fire of resistance.
Resistance.
Specifically mentioning Stonewall, and the source is clear. Stonewall wasn't a street festival.
It calls it a stand.
A stand,
Yeah.
yeah. A refusal. That raw moment of saying enough.
That origin point feels really central to this whole perspective.
Absolutely. And the source describes this transformation, how that initial resistance shifted.
How so?
Well, it became remembrance, honoring the struggle the people lost. Then remembrance sort of evolved into celebration, marking progress, finding joy.
Which sounds positive, but there's a but coming, I sense.
There is. The source suggests that celebration today has often tipped over into performance.
Performance. Okay, yeah, that word again. What does that imply here?
It implies something might have gotten lost. The source asks if something sacred, maybe quieter, from those early days faded as things got louder, more public.
So it's questioning the substance behind this show.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like when we march now, is it still carrying that original weight?
Yeah.
When you add a rainbow filter online, is it still about protecting the vulnerable or something else?
It acknowledges visibility and joy matter, though.
Oh, for sure. But it worries they might overshadow the core purpose. There's this line. When the loudest voices forget the softest lives.
That is hard.
Yeah. It asks if participating has become less about solidarity and more like putting on a costume, or for businesses, just ticking a corporate checkbox.
Form over function.
You got it. That's the critique.
And that leads right into this idea of the rainbow economy, doesn't it?
Directly. The source uses phrases like identity is a market, activism is branding, pride is packaging.
Wow.
Pretty blunt.
Very direct. It states there is money in visibility and points to things we all see, influencers, corporate campaigns, hashtags, the merch. Right, the rainbow everything for 1 month.
Exactly. And the point isn't that all visibility is bad, but that, quote, monetization distorts.
Distorts. How? What's the impact of that distortion?
The source argues that when branding replaces belonging, real people disappear. And this is where it gets really human. It's worried about who gets left behind in this version of pride.
And it actually names examples of who gets left behind.
It does. It talks about the rural teenager, isolated, the closeted colleague, afraid at work, the aging gay man in silence, maybe feeling disconnected.
People who aren't necessarily going to be reached by a flashy campaign.
Precisely. The source says they need sanctuary, not spectacle. They need conversation, not a campaign.
Sanctuary versus spectacle. That's a powerful contrast.
Isn't it? The text says pride has in places become performance, and then this zinger, performance doesn't hold people, performance doesn't heal.
Oof.
Yeah. It argues pride's purpose should be for the community, especially those quiet ones needing support, not just a parade. It's about remembering who it was originally for.
So beneath the loud celebration, there's this call to remember the vulnerability, the ongoing need for safety and real belonging.
Exactly. Which, as the source implies, isn't necessarily solved by a logo or a viral post.
Okay, so after that critique, the source shifts gears, right, to the global picture.
Yes, and it's deliberately stark. It lays out the reality for LGBT people right now in 2025, a reminder of why resistance started and why sanctuary is still needed.
This is the reality check part.
Absolutely. The source presents some tough numbers. As of late 2024, carrying into 2025, 12 countries still have the death penalty for same-sex love.
12. Still, today, just let that sink in.
It really does stop you cold, and it continues. Around 160 countries worldwide still don't legally recognize same-sex marriage.
The 160. So the vast majority of nations.
The vast majority. And then there's criminalization.
Where it's actually illegal.
Yes. 64 countries still criminalize same-sex relationships in some way. People facing arrest, prison, just for being who they are.
This is not history class. This is now.
That's exactly the source's point. It's current reality. And it contrasts that with the number of countries offering full marriage equality, only about 35.
So 35 with equality versus 160 without recognition, or 64 where it's criminalized. That context is crucial.
It really is. It highlights that while we see celebrations, millions live in fear. Fear of the law itself.
It definitely challenges any idea that the fight is over.
Completely. The need for basic rights, basic safety.
Yeah.
It's urgent for so many.
But the source doesn't just leave us there in the difficulty. It brings in some balance, right? Focusing on progress, particularly in Asia.
Yes, thankfully. It shifts to highlight what it calls heart lines, signs of hope, proof that change is happening, even if quietly.
Okay, good. What are some examples?
Well, big news out of Thailand. As of January 2025, same-sex marriage legalized. First in Southeast Asia, full rights. That's huge.
Wow, first in Southeast Asia. Okay.
Then in South Asia, you have Nepal. Back in 2023, they had their first official registrations of same-sex marriages after a Supreme Court ruling, another first for its region.
Foundational steps. And further east, Taiwan.
Taiwan expanded rights in 2023. Broader adoption rights for same-sex couples, recognizing international marriages too. They keep refining things.
They've been a leader there. What about Japan?
Japan's seen movement in the courts. Between 2024 and 2025, multiple courts ruled the ban on same-sex marriage unconstitutional.
So legal pressure is building, even if the law hasn't fully changed yet.
Exactly, shifting the ground. And South Korea.
What happened there?
Historic step in 2024, national health benefits extended to same-sex couples. Not marriage, but significant recognition in social welfare. A first.
That is significant. And Hong Kong?
2023 saw court wins there, too, on equal rights for housing and inheritance for same-sex couples. Progress through the legal system.
So the source uses these examples, Thailand, Nepal, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong, as proof that things are moving forward.
Yes, showing that quiet change can still echo loud, as the text puts it.
And it connects this progress less to spectacle and more to what?
To the steady work. It attributes it to policy, patience, and persistent, quiet leadership, reinforcing that idea that deep change often happens away from the main stage.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the source introduces this concept of recalibration. What's that about? It sounds complex.
It is. It's asking for nuance. The source suggests that maybe not every obstacle or negative reaction globally is just simple hatred or phobia.
Meaning?
Meaning some reactions might come from other places, too. Maybe fear of change, maybe fatigue, maybe just society is genuinely struggling to figure things out in a world that's changing fast.
So it's not making excuses for harm.
Not at all. But it's suggesting we need to understand the layers of resistance sometimes. Not every law is pure malice. Not every concern is phobia. Some might be clumsy responses to shifts.
So face the complexity.
Right. Understand the roots of the pushback. The source talks about balancing rights and responsibility, visibility, and humility.
And it wraps that thought up by saying, real progress lives in nuance, not in slogans.
Yeah, a powerful point suggesting that, just shouting might not always be the most effective way to build bridges or achieve lasting change, especially globally.
Let's circle back then to the voice itself, the one from Lóng Tíng Voices. What does the source say its own purpose is in sharing all this?
It's very clear about that. It says, I am not here for algorithms. I am not here for applause. Directly contrasting with that performance idea we talked about.
Okay, so not for the clicks or the likes. What is it there for?
Its stated purpose is to protect, to listen, to remind, to restore. Those words feel very grounded, very community-focused.
Protecting, listening, reminding, restoring. Fits with the earlier critique.
It really does. And there's a direct message aimed squarely at those quiet ones it mentioned.
The ones who might feel left out of the main narrative.
Exactly. It speaks right to them. To the teenager hiding, to the mother unsure, to the elder who aches for belonging.
That's incredibly personal.
It is. The message is basically, you are not forgotten. We see you, we feel you, we stand with you, even when the rainbow fades.
Wow. That feels like the heart of it, doesn't it? Bringing it back to that fundamental human connection and support.
Completely. It feels like the answer to the commercialization critique. It's about the real bonds, the real holding and healing. And that leads directly into how the source defines pride itself.
Right, it boils it down. It's not the party, not the product.
No, the source is emphatic. Pride is not a party, not a product, not a logo. It strips all that away.
Pride is a promise.
That's the final word from this perspective. Pride is a promise, and we intend to keep it. It reframes the entire concept as this ongoing commitment.
A promise to do what? To protect, listen, stand with.
Exactly. Especially with those who are still vulnerable, still maybe unseen in all the noise.
Well, this has been quite a deep dive. Exploring this perspective from Lóng Tíng Voices really does give you a different lens for Pride season. We've touched on its roots in resistance.
The critique of performance and commercialization.
That stark global reality check.
Balanced by those hopeful signs of progress, especially in Asia.
And that call for nuance, for recalibration.
Yeah, it's a perspective that really urges us to look beyond the surface, doesn't it? To remember the core human needs behind it all.
And it lands on that powerful idea. Pride as a promise to the community.
Especially as the source stresses, to the quietest ones.
So as we wrap up, maybe the thought to leave you with, reflecting on this source material, is this. If pride really is a promise, who is that promise to? And maybe more personally, how do you keep that promise? Especially for those who might not be visible in the main spectacle.
Definitely something to think about.